Welcome to the Women Inspire Aspire podcast. In this episode, I talked to Rashmi Ramakrishna about product management. Hi Rashmi, thanks for accepting my invite to appear in the podcast. How are you doing today?
Hi, Venkat. I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing good, thank you. So tell us a bit about yourself and where you live and things like that.
Sure. Thanks, Venkat. Hi, everyone. I am Rashmi Ramakrishna. I am a daughter, sister, wife to my college sweetheart, and a mom to a 7-year-old amazing boy. I've been in tech all my life. Started as a developer, moved to IT consulting post MBA. Now I'm building products and totally love the whole product management space. I'm from Bangalore, India, born and brought up over there, and right now working and staying in Bay Area, California.
That's great. What makes you attracted towards product management?
Yeah, it's the beauty of the big picture, the prioritizations which we do in our daily life, and what value it's gonna get. It's you end up doing this every day, day in and day out, talking to hundreds of stakeholders. Sometimes you'll not even be aware of it, and get things moving. And the beauty of it is, long time ago, there were roles where you deliver something and your job ended there. But this is a continuous measurement. Did you deliver, and did you get those value and metrics out of it? You got to do something else. So it's an evolving circus, and it's fun and it's chaotic, but it's a great learning experience.
Wonderful. Don't want to delve a lot into the tech part, but you might be dealing with a lot of requirements as part of product management. So can you tell us a bit about how you deal with the requirements, and when they change, how do you feel? How do you manage this whole thing, the circus?
I'll be happy to help. So this is a very, it was a niche space, but now it's not so niche. So I think in US there are about 800,000 product managers. It's a very growing field, and it'll reach that plateau. So with requirements, earlier, if you remember the whole waterfall model where we used to put a 30, 40 page document, then came the agile methodology where we took it into user stories. This is one step ahead, where requirements come and we ask all our stakeholders to put an intake and start thinking about not just requirement, but value. If we want to do this work, how much value are you going to get to the business? Is it in terms of revenue? Is it in terms of user experience, loyalty? So we start making the stakeholders think in those lines, because somewhere we need to funnel those requirements and see what makes more sense from different collaborators, where we can take up, because we're always having time crunch and we always having resources crunch. So when that's a starting point, and then there'll be a lot of discussions, right, with these stakeholders, trying to understand what they need. And once it stops, as a product, we need to figure out, we get back to the whiteboard to figure out solutions available. Is this something we can do? And that's where you start involving your tech and your UX designers at the very beginning of the journey itself. So when you discuss these, do product ideation and discovery, then work with other stakeholders like legal, marketing, sales, whoever needs to be bought into that idea, get everything groomed, and then you put it in the team's backlog, where we have all the designs, we have metrics to be measured, so that the team takes up proper development cycle, they complete, they deliver. And that's when, again, product manager starts looking through a microscopic lens of, hey, how is the metrics? Day one we launched, what's the churn rate, what's the, all the metrics depending on product to product, B2B, B2C. We measure, we report, and if anything needs to be done, we take it up as enhancements.
Wonderful. With the advent of Gen AI, what are the changes or what kind of happenings that are happening around product management?
Yeah, there's a lot of things. You have stuff like, we heavily, product managers work on product requirement document, PRDs as they call. There are bots coming up where they will give you templatized PRDs. It is still evolving. Right now, I would say, as of day in, day out use case, we've not used it as such. There are a lot of, because Gen AI as well requires a lot of algorithms and machine learning and resource utilization. So when we have a use case that we need to build something which costs so much value, that's when we probably can lean over to Gen AI, for better results. Like, for example, just a simple use case is, today we have an uploading feature in our app, upload your photo. Now, how do we recognize it's a personal information? What sort of an image it is? So all that is available today, but do we use it in our products is something where we need to figure out the whole impact versus risk versus resource. So it's in, at least in our organization, it's, I wouldn't say nascent. We are seeing how we can adopt it meaningfully. And that's where a lot of organizations are, probably in that dilemma. How can they bring the meaningful use case from a product management standpoint, while the companies who are building it, they're constantly working on ML models and, the genuine nature of the Gen AI. So that's the other space in product management. It's more of trying to see what's viable with Gen AI.
Wow, that sounds exciting. I'm seeing day in and day out emails about Gen AI's impact and generally the AI's impact. And it has become very costly with the use of GPUs and things like that. So organizations are really being careful in using Gen AI as a use case. So I think we need to wait and see, how this pans out as we move on. So
Yeah, I
um,
totally agree with you.
tell us about your journey in general in life towards where you are right now, starting from probably your school days or college days, if you would like.
Yeah, that'll be great. I'm a typical example of a template. I studied, as I told you, all my education was in Bangalore. I did schooling. I was a good student, as they called good. Now I laugh at it. Then I had to get a certain percentage to get into a good, really good college. I think the college is National College Jayanagar. So I did that. Then you got to do your engineering, as you know, clear your entrance exams. Completed my engineering, and first thing parents look forward is that placement, which is all like, given to us at our hands. So got the job, worked over there for a couple of years, and then I was just never satisfied. Always wanted to do an MBA for a broader vision of, how my code impacts the world. So cracked, you had a couple of entrance exams over there. Then for the first time, went away from my hometown, Bangalore, to Bhubaneswar to do my MBA. And that kind of opened my life. There was just so much of independence where I could take those decisions all by myself, learn a lot about life. Completed, but then heart was in my home city, so came back to Bangalore, worked there in IT consulting for several years. So as you see, it's a very template-driven model here. So again, no philosophies. The disclaimer is it's probably my story, but just a middle-class person who's just asked to do things and who was reaching milestones. That's where everything went fine, if you may call it. Then came where we had to take a decision to come to US. So I came here, started working, life was going on. I had a son by then. Uh, but slowly there was never a part of introspection in my life about, learning as such. Then COVID hit and my son was about 3 years old, and it felt like the world here was ready for COVID. I requested the teacher saying, hey, engage him for a couple of, an hour at least. And they said, yeah, that's good. He's 3, but we just request you to sit with him because he's just 3. So they started Zoom classes. And that's when all my life I've studied, cracked exams, but that's when I started appreciating learning. um, they started showing things like strawberries. And I didn't know the answers for most of the quizzical things they used to ask a 3-year-old kid. They said, hey, where do you think they were teaching the concept of seeds? And they said, where do you think the seeds in the strawberries are? And I was just taken aback. I'm like, oh, I do not know this answer. And then I learned there are hundreds of seeds outside the strawberry layer. And similarly, right? They used to, during winter, we were in Michigan, and they used to say, hey, kid, now go and look at your trees. The trees are all barren, but you will see the nests clearly of the birds. And they were teaching him Van Gogh art. I said, oh, I mean, I know Van Gogh as a person, and a painter, but it was so simple to teach a Van Gogh art to a 3-year-old kid. They had these craft works, and even the concept of nest, they used to ask us to, freeze the noodles, the hakka noodles, melt a bit of chocolate and put some jelly beans over there and talk about it, right? So it's a very, it's more of a show and tell, but it later transformed to feel and tell, where mathematics, I mean, all I remember, again, this is something we laugh about today. So we were taught tables. We were supposed to, by heart, tables up to a certain number. I could never do that. But then I always thought it was two ones are two, two twos are, but never understood that it's the times they do, and that's the multiplication. It's two fives are um, 10, because we used to call it as two fives are 10, and never kind of understood those meanings. So math became very visual. They used to give us marbles, teach addition, subtraction. Uh, it was like a stress buster for me. And I said, wow, learning can be so beautiful. Again, just quoting all these instances, right? So they had these tin containers. They put styrofoam ABCD, the letters, because my son was 3 years old. So when they used to say, hey, Apple, which letter do you think it starts with? So the kids had a fun time because it was Zoom and he was a 3 year old. He used to look for all the styrofoam letters and he used to find A, attach it to the magnet on the tin container and just show it on Zoom. So these were some of the very instances, but it was just an amazing journey. Um, and life moved on post-COVID, but that's where my learning started, if I may, and I'll probably continue a bit about this. Like I said, it was more of a template life I had, doing well in profession, but I started after this, probably I started realizing the gaps I inherently have, because I started growing up in the career ladder. And but these the gaps I started realizing were very basic. Like I could never, they were like in a meeting room of about 10 diverse business people. I could never engage them in an interesting conversation. Small talks were becoming very hard. Uh, if I had to appreciate people, it was a two-liner, and this was all probably my IT world where everything was bullet points like, hey, this is what I need. Can you do this? This is the input, output. I was like, hey, you did a great job because, whatever reason. And my writing skills were getting very limited to 2 or 3 lines. But in the other world, in the Western world, I didn't see that when people appreciated it. It's true from the heart. And it ran paragraphs. It's a very genuine way of them expressing and highlighting a person's quality and what it leads to, right? And again, just to add a background, I was a good debater at school. I participated in essay writing. As a fun fact, I was even writing essays about Ramana Maharshi in high school. But again, it's highly philosophical, Ramana Maharshi, but probably at that time I didn't realize the philosophy. And now maybe is the age where I could take all his preachings and principles better. So I did a lot of these, and it started hurting me, saying, why? Is it because I come from India? Is it because of the accent? Is it it's not those. It's then I boiled down to say, hey, we did a Renan Martin English grammar, everything's just going amiss. Where are these gaps? But then I started seeing a lot of patterns with the Indian communities, which is pretty much similar. So when asked a question, you just keep rambling throughout rather than being an active listener. I said, oh, that's probably a pattern in the way we were brought up. And, I'm not saying it's bad or good, but sometimes it's helped us a long way. But at the same time, it's just probably there are some things which if we introspect, we can do a lot better. So just in terms of reading, writing, communicating is where I started realizing the gaps. And that's when it also started. It was a low period for me where I started realizing I don't have hobbies, because a lot of the folks here have hobbies and they're very passionate about it. So at one point of time, I just worked, came back, cooked. I have a beautiful family, but somehow that was not enough. I didn't have a hobby. And that started getting on to me. Um, because work also at some point of time becomes mundane. So how do you beat all that and get energized is probably a hobby. So these were all the gaps. at some point of time, I identified, I said, yep, I need to work on these and, start getting a hobby. If not, start working on a basic communication skill. And that's going to take time. It's not because you read a couple of books. It's a constant practice, to keep your audience engaged. It's an art. For instance, I'll give you one example where people appreciate a lot and they say, hey, thank you, Rashmi. Thank you so much for just leading this. And I used to give a faint smile because I didn't even know how to receive a thank you. And that's where I started realizing I couldn't even receive a gratitude where you just say, hey, of course I would do this and it's a team effort, put the whole thing. I used to mumble something saying, yeah, team effort, and leave it at that. So, yes, in short, learning the basic skills started, and now I've started working on all these. Maybe I haven't improved a lot, but that's where it's a fact check. But learning can be beautiful. It need not be a 1,000-page essay or cracking a lot of math for your entrance exams, because that's how a curriculum is built. But some of the things we can change, and I'll pause here. It's a good segue. I went down my journey, and for most of the folks, it may or may not be applicable. Uh, but we don't stop there, right? We just constantly improve and be a better of ourselves. So I listen to a lot of podcasts, and recently, I think you all have this product called Cred in India. So I was listening to the CEO Kunal Shah's, product dissection, but he, if you get a chance, and I would highly recommend that, it was beautiful. He connected philosophy, Indian philosophy, to every answer which we operate in the business world today. He said why there are so many Indian CEOs in US, to, and again, connected everything to a philosophy. And he said, we've learned it this way and our lives have moved on. But for our kids, we need to introduce second order thinking. Why at the dinner table? Put some questions to your kid. Hey, why do you think it's that? And let the kid go back, find out why things are like that. Why is the sky blue? It can be as simple as that. And start questioning them. And today they have multitude of resources to even find out, and maybe they get fascinated. But the underlying thing was when he said that, that's when it hit me. I never had a second order thinking of why. Why are we doing this? It was more like, okay, you got to do this to get the result. But it was never like why. For a lot of things, or for a majority of things, we never questioned. So that's a good start for our kids and for ourselves as well. Introduce that second order thinking. Again, combine our learning. We've got a great heritage. We've cracked our exams. We are great in STEM, but still somewhere we need to take a step back and figure out the whole interpersonal skills which we may or may not lack, and also take that pace where learn at a pace where you can still learn, and appreciate things, and you can constantly improve, not in terms of where there'll be a result waiting at the end of the day. So I think these were some of the findings. Venkat, I just want to sum up the whole thing saying, um, Benjamin Franklin, and this stuck to me. He said, tell me and I may forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn. And I think that, struck a chord. And that's why I'm taking the path of student, for life, and trying to constantly improve and evolve as well.
Yeah, there is a lot of value in learning, and you are absolutely right that learning and also the communication skills that you mentioned, it's so important for all of us. When I first reached US, I was talking too fast. And my manager said, slow down. I'm not able to figure out what you're saying. I didn't
I'm
realize
glad you
that.
could relate to that. That I was in that same state.
I was really surprised hearing that comment because I was thinking that I was talking slow, but he said, you're talking too fast. I'm not able to figure out what you're saying. You have to slow down. I can't tell the difference between your can and can't. So you have to tell me that clearly, is what he said. And those are all wonderful memories. And after an year or so, I guess my communication improved so much talking to that person. Tell us about what kind of other hobbies and interests that you are planning to pursue apart from, of course, learning. Are you planning to do any travel or hiking or anything like that?
Yeah. So with hobbies, I realized, I mean, again, we had these resources, we have plenty of recipes. Cooking became my stress buster and hobby. So I cook a lot. When I say not a lot by quantity, I keep trying different things. And again, thanks to our cultural heritage, one day you can do a Rajasthani, one day you can do South Indian, one day you can do Punjabi. You can just keep doing and evolving. So that's really great. And over here, I've even explored a lot of, there are easier options where, for a pasta, you get an amazing sauce. So maybe you can focus on a lot of other things like roasting vegetables and stuff like that. So cooking's been my go-to easier one because it's more accessible. Um, California, thanks to the weather, we moved here about 2 to 3 years ago, and it's beautiful for hiking. So that was another realization where, with COVID and the sedentary lifestyle, I realized I never focused on strength. So building up that, and we do a lot of hikes. We take our 7-year-old. The recent one was we did a 3,500 meters hike for about 8 hours. So that was strenuous, but truly rewarding. So these are the two, but I've already started thinking that, hey, as I grow older, I need to get back to teaching. So that's something is there as a thought, but we'll see how that goes.
Interesting. What else would you like to add apart from those things?
No, I think, yeah, as just connecting everything to even like you were telling, the Indian nod is very confusing to the people here. And I used to do that. I used to shake my head vertically, horizontally. My mind's like, is that yes or no? So right from those things, we probably have to become more aware. For example, in the Western world, when you open the door, you keep the door open and wait for the other person to come. And as a fun fact, right? So we learn that and we try to do that. We keep the door open till another person comes out, or wait for the person to come out. And that's how probably Europe or the rest of US operates. But in California, it doesn't happen. So if I keep the door open, people will keep coming in. And I was like, no, I got to close it at some point of time. So I think these little things as human beings, we tend to forget to smile at each other. Right. And I know ours is a 1.4 billion population. It's competitive, there's pressure, there's pollution. There's a lot of things we're coping up with, but we need to start thinking about smiling at a person. More often just for our own happiness and that cognitive ease, as they say. If you have kids, if you have pets, whatever it is, learn to live happily with them and see where all you can just dabble your hands and explore, is what I would like to say. And yes, if you don't have a hobby, create one. Trust me, it's going to change your life. I've seen uh, Amay, my son's teachers, who were probably way past their 50s, and they loved their craft work. So they used to go and shop a lot, and they used to openly tell me this is so beautiful and rewarding. So it can be as simple as a DIY. Today, there are plenty of resources to do even your craft work at home. Focus on your health and just lead a good, happy life.
Wonderful. That's a well-rounded suggestion for people to live their lives. Thank you so much for sharing that. Do you have any questions for me?
No, I think this whole idea of yours is great, because when I happen to see you're an author, and just interviewing the people on their day-to-day lives itself, the concept is beautiful. Because yeah, we don't have to be an important person and preach the learnings, because sometimes, and that's how I derive values from people around. I gain energy from people around, from your parents, from your family, from managers, colleagues. there's just so much to learn. So yeah, this whole concept is beautiful, and thank you for initiating this, and thank you for inviting me.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much for appearing in the podcast and spending time with us. I wish you all the best in your future endeavors, your work, your hobbies, and your life. Take care and bye bye.
Thanks, Venkat. Thank you. Bye.
That was a great podcast with Rashmi Ramakrishna. Please subscribe to this channel and follow it for more awesome podcasts. Opinions expressed by the guests in this podcast are their own. The host or the sponsors of the podcast do not condone the opinions expressed by the guests or the actions arising out of those opinions. Any decisions or actions that the listeners might take as a result of listening to this podcast must be based on their own judgment and will be at their own risk. The podcast host or their sponsors will not be held responsible for the consequences of any actions and or decisions taken as a result of any content in this podcast.